good, people? It's me again, L Teddy 27. This is Angry Teacher Chronicles, and today I am going to be educating you on education. This whole thing we call the educational system. This is going to be a series of videos, so today is volume one. And I don't want to be long, but I am going to give you some information that you may need and you may find of interest. Now, um, it is still Teacher Appreciation Week. Quick shout out to all my fellow teachers on my last video, which was Teacher Talk and Rants. I said, leave me a comment if you are a teacher. I do know one of my subscribers, her name is really bitch, and bitch is spelled B exclamation point T at sign CH. So go follow her. I even featured her on my YouTube homework video I did a couple weeks ago. So she's a fellow teacher, a fellow educator. Shouts out to you. Happy Teacher Appreciation Week to you, my love. And this is to all my teachers out there. Always remember why we do this. What we're here for, because sometimes the crazy people in our buildings, and even sometimes the parents and sometimes the students themselves, will make you forget why we do this. But we do this because we want to positively impact the lives of individuals. So shouts out to my fellow teachers. Hang in there. It's almost over. We will have our summer vacations to enjoy ourselves. So today, in volume one, I'm going to talk to parents of elementary students. And I am going to try to be as, I'm always open and honest, but when I go into some of this stuff, I'm not going to go really, really, really deep into it like I'm teaching you a class on this stuff. But I'm going to give you enough knowledge and information that you can take with you. And perhaps even if you want to go do some of your own research and go ask some questions at your own, at the schools within your own neighborhoods, or look at the districts within your own city, states, counties, or whatnot, you can do that. But I want to open your eyes. I will be honest with you. A lot of what I say, I am specifically trying to speak to parents that have children of color, um, especially my African American parents, Latino, and other parents of children of color. And I say that because sometimes you have parents that adopt kids that may be of color, but the parent isn't, or different things like that. All the different scenarios. So I'm talking to some of the elementary parents, and I'm talking to the younger parents. Now, as an educator, we go through a lot of different professional developments and certifications that you have to get. I have certification in my state, in two states now, that is in gifted. Where you, in order to teach gifted, you have to have certain certifications, and you have to have taken certain courses, and you have to, be certified in order to do that. I was gifted when I was in school. I was gifted from second grade. Took an IQ test. It was, I'll give you, that's a story time story, a real story. But I had an IQ of 142 and gotten gifted, so forth and so on. But that's, it's not about me. This is about how our system sometimes fails children of color, specifically black students, African American students, and even more so black male students. So I'm going to give you a scenario and explain to you how this works. You guys, students, when they're in kindergarten, first grade, and second grade, most districts, most schools give those teachers marching orders to really monitor students, monitor how those students behave, monitor the quality of their work, monitor their social skills, monitor their reactions to things, just monitor, how that student functions in a classroom. because those are primary foundational years and formidable years. So here's what happens. I'm going to give you two students, both of them males. You have Johnny over here, white male, first grade. We got Taekwon over here, black male, first grade, same student. Okay? Same classroom, same whatever. Both have similar behaviors. Both of them are students that don't follow the rules. Teacher gives them an assignment, says, I want you to write a sentence using 6 words. Student said only writes 3 words because student feels like that's all they need to say what they have to say. Teacher says color this picture. Make sure you stay within the lines. Student says screw the lines. I'm going to color outside of the lines because that's just what I want to do. Students, for whatever reason, doesn't feel comfortable in the classroom and sometimes becomes introverted. Sometimes when they get upset, they may lash out and they may yell sometimes. Students sometimes has colorful language. Now, here's what happens, not in every school district, but in more than we would like to admit. Johnny over here is going to have adjectives attached to Johnny that makes Johnny go down one path. Taekwon over here is going to have adjectives attached to Taekwon that makes him go down another path. Bear in mind, it's my phone always wants to go off when I'm making a video. Bear in mind, they both are exhibiting identical behaviors in the class. So here's what happens. Only difference is the adjectives being used. Johnny is being said that Johnny is colorful. Johnny is eccentric. Johnny is an out-of-the-box thinker. Taekwon is being told that he's disrespectful. Taekwon is said to being nonconformist. Taekwon is said to be defiant. Taekwon is said to not be following the rules. Same identical characteristics. Now here's the issue. The issue is not that the students can't learn. They both learn differently. Now, let me paint this picture for you. Here's what happens to Johnny. Johnny's mom becomes an advocate for Johnny because when the parent comes in and for a parent conference and the teacher says to the parent, hey, Johnny is doing these behaviors, but I asked him to do this. The mom says, I'm not here for this. My child is special. So Johnny's mom does this. Johnny's mom says, you know what? I'm going to take my child to my friend over here who's a child psychologist or a psychiatrist. And I'm going to have this psychologist or psychiatrist administer some form of an IQ test. A lot of times it's the WISC. There's other different forms of the IQ test. There's multiple versions of an IQ test that can be given. Mind you, Johnny's mom, who's also this child psychologist or psychiatrist, knows the system. He knows these are the tests that the school district accepts. He knows that these are the specific tests that lend themselves to Johnny performing well in, because Johnny thinks outside of the box and he is eccentric. Johnny's mom takes him to go take that test. The test comes back from her psychologist or her school psychiatrist. I mean, her, not school psychiatrist, but psychiatrist. She brings it to the school. She says to the school administration, to teacher, I don't care what you got to say about my child. Here's my documentation from a doctor that says that this is his IQ. And now, once she takes that documentation to the school from that psychiatrist or child psychologist with verified documentation that that child meets the threshold for gifted by IQ test, guess what? From that day forward, that school district is going to put him in a gifted program. They have to. Keep that bookmark there. We got Taekwon over here on this side. Taekwon has same parent conference. Taekwon mama don't know nobody where she can go to, because Taekwon mama is over here still trying to just pay the bills and get it done. We ain't got time for all of that. So when Taekwon's teacher and administration comes to Taekwon's mama, they say, listen, Taekwon seems like he's special. Taekwon looks as if he needs extra added help in order to function in a normal classroom. So we are going to send Taekwon to the school psychiatrist or the school psychologist and have him meet with Taekwon. Taekwon goes in here to the school psychologist or psychiatrist. The administration told him to go there, and at no time has that administrator said, I need you to test this child to see if they're, exceptional or gifted. They tell them, I need you to tell me why this child can't function in a normal classroom. So now that school psychiatrist and psychologist automatically has looked at this, the connotative meaning behind what is being said to that school psychologist is, okay, we're going down a negative path. We need to see if they need if they're special needs kids, if they have all of the autism spectrum or any of the services needed by special education. So here's what happens. Those are the two scenarios. Here's what happens with little Johnny. Little Johnny, because he has that IQ test, he is placed in the gifted program. Taekwon over here, because the school psychologist said, oh, he needs all of these accommodations. Mind you, Johnny needs accommodations to be able to function with a normal class as well. So does Taekwon. But here's how the accommodations differ at this point. Johnny's placed in gifted, where he'll be given accommodations. Taekwon is placed in special education programs, where he will also receive accommodations. And here's how, for the rest of their educational career, they are going to be different. They started the same. When you're placed in a gifted program, let me deal with Taekwon first. When you're placed in a special education program, meaning you need accommodations, they give you what we in education, as an IEP, an individual education plan. And on that IEP, they're going to meet with the teachers, they're going to meet with the parents, they're going to meet with the school colleges, all of those people, administration, and they're going to sit in a meeting and they're going to talk about all of the things that Taekwon does that is bad, or things that Taekwon does that does not allow him to function as a normal student. So they are focusing on Taekwon's weaknesses and what accommodations they need to make to accommodate and mitigate those deficiencies or weaknesses as they see in the classroom. That will happen at least once a year from the time he is labeled until he leaves public education. And every time that parent comes in for that meeting, and Taekwon has to be at that meeting as well. Taekwon sits in that meeting, and all Taekwon hears is all of his weaknesses, everything he does bad, and all of this grocery list of things that Taekwon needs to do in order for him to be deemed regular and function as a regular person. So you can probably imagine, after years of hearing all of the horrible things that you do wrong and all of the ways that you need these accommodations to be deemed normal, what that does to an individual psychologically. Now let's move over here to Johnny. Because Johnny is labeled gifted, Johnny needs accommodations as well. But here's the difference. You had special education here. You had gifted here. Gifted gets a document as well. They don't get an IEP, an individual education plan. They get something called an EP, which is an education plan. The difference is this. On an EP, legally, I know in my state, you are not even allowed to discuss that student's weaknesses. The only thing that you're allowed to discuss is that student's strengths and what you are going to do to support his strengths, to enhance his strengths. That is all. Even though Johnny still has all of the same limitations that Taekwon has, Johnny, when he goes into meetings now, and they have to have meetings once a year as well with the parents and the students and things. Now, every time he goes into his meeting, all he hears is his strengths. Teachers not even allowed to talk about the bad stuff. All they hear is strengths. All they do is enhance those things that make Johnny, that Johnny is strong in, and those things naturally will make Johnny feel good. Remember, we started off with both students. Come on, phone. With both students exhibiting the same behavior, but the problem is, in a disproportional way, these little black boys are sent down the path of special education. These little white boys are sent down the path of gifted, which is also a subsection of special education. That is in the special education umbrella, but the way they are dealt with is completely different. Total opposites. So what happens is, it's made to, when you look at it societally, it's made to look like you got people doing the same things, but here we have the person of color doing the same thing that this white person is doing, but they're treated differently. And it starts early on. It starts from that K through 2 grade level. And these are little things that we don't understand. And there's even incentive for Taekwon's mother. See, Taekwon's mother has incentive because Taekwon's mother, and it's not in every case, but sometimes Taekwon's mom may be living at the poverty line, may be a single mother, may be living with situations and circumstances, like I said earlier, where she just does not have the money, the finances, or all of those other things that go with it to do what Johnny's mom was able to do. And so to give her incentive, here's what sometimes administration will say to them. Oh, you'll get a check for him. We'll pay you once a month and you will get a check every month for him as long as he's labeled. So now if I'm hurting for money, and now if this check is going to help me pay a bill or put some food on the table, guess what? Even if I don't feel like Taekwon is special needs, I might say he is, so that Taekwon can get me money that I need to help put bills on the table. Pay a bill and put food on the table. So as long as I can have Taekwon deemed special needs, I'm going to do that. Damn what that means for Taekwon and his, social development, educational development, his whole psyche. And this is the problem that we have. This is education. This is real world. And this is really what happens in more cases than we want to talk about. So I'm reaching out to parents. So if you got a child pre-K, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, I had that happen to me. Thank God, one day in a story time, I might tell you, my grandmother was an advocate for me because they wanted to put me in special needs. And she said, no, test them. Give them an IQ test. And she forced them to. And I came out with a IQ of 142, and they were forced to put me in gifted. And so now I did not have to go through this scenario. And a lot of our children of color, especially disproportionately our black boys and our Latino boys and our boys of color, are put into this scenario of Taekwon. Don't fall for the trap, parent. Become an advocate for your child. I don't care if your child does exhibit certain behaviors, that may not mean that that child is necessarily special needs. That child may actually be gifted, because the one thing that you learn about gifted students when you are educated on them, they do think differently. They do not think like a normal student. They need accommodations and different styles of learning in order to bring out their strengths and to show what they have to offer, which is why they have the EP over here as opposed to the IEP over here. Next time, parent of kindergarten, first grade, second grade student, you go into a parent conference and all they want to do is focus on the negative. You say, no, I don't want to hear about it. Tell me what he does well. And how are you enhancing what he does well? Okay, you think he's that slow? Okay, give him a gifted test. Matter of fact, I don't want you to do that. I want you to recommend for me 3 outside entities of the school, of this school. Or I'm going to go research my own psychiatrist or child psychologist that is, more in tune with a black child or a Latino child, so they can administer an IQ test, and I can take that and bring that back here, because I don't want you to tell me things. And that way you can educate yourself. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. And I know this video is getting long, but I wanted to give you that information and empower you and let you know, do not go in there just like when you go to the doctor's office and the doctors may say, hey, you got such and such going on with your body, and if you think it's too bad, guess what you do? Okay, doctor, and you go to another doctor and you get a second opinion. Just so you can confirm. You don't just take that first doctor's word for it. Okay? Do that with your child. Make sure that the best interest of your child is being served. You want your child over here where every time somebody meets with them, they're not even allowed to acknowledge or focus on their weaknesses. They're only focusing in on their strengths and how they're going to enhance their strengths. All right, y'all. That's all I have for today. Once again, shouts out to my teachers. If you're a teacher, drop a comment. Say, hey, fellow educator, professional educator, and so forth. And I'll give you a shout out too. I hope to make another video about education and teaching this week, if I'm not too busy. That's all I got for y'all today. I'll hit y'all up later. Thank y'all for coming. Y'all drive safely.